We all have a specific picture in our heads of the classic American road trip: open highways, towering monuments, a deep connection to history. But the reality of actually standing in front of those icons looks a lot more like a contact sport. What used to be a spontaneous pull-off on the side of the highway has become a strict logistical operation. You don't just roll up to these places anymore. Taking a family to a marquee destination often requires booking a full year in advance. You are looking at a multi-thousand-dollar investment between premium lodging, flights, and entrance fees before you even pack a bag. And because the system is structured to process millions of people efficiently, you end up experiencing raw nature and culture from behind pavement, guardrails, and a wall of other people's shoulders. To figure out if these trips make sense for you, you have to cut out the emotional pressure. You need to evaluate your vacation strictly as an investment of your capital and your time, which brings us to the most practical metric you can use when planning: travel ROI. Return on investment in travel means taking the hard financial cost, the logistical friction, and the crowd density, and weighing all of that against the actual, tangible memories you get out of the trip. This chart shows how that equation has broken down. Over the past decade, visitation numbers and localized costs at top U.S. landmarks have spiked on a steep upward curve, while the average household vacation budget has remained flat. Look at this expanding gap right here. That widening space is where the friction of the trip outpaces the resources a normal family actually has to spend. When you get caught in that gap, you end up coming home from a dream vacation feeling exhausted, stressed, and financially drained. To avoid that trap, every destination needs to be mapped on a strict matrix, comparing the effort it requires against the authentic impact it delivers. We can visualize this using an effort versus impact chart. The vertical axis measures friction, meaning cost and crowds, while the horizontal axis measures the experiential impact. Let's start with our first category, the urban icons. A trip to a famous city center demands a massive upfront input. You are navigating severe, gridlocked congestion and paying localized premiums for basic food and lodging. Then there is the friction of sensory overload. The sheer volume of traffic and noise rapidly drains your energy, often with nowhere to sit down and rest without paying a cover charge. The primary outcome of enduring this is acquiring a highly recognizable photo. It serves as instant proof to your peers that you stood in a famous media location. But because you spend the majority of your time just shuffling through dense crowds or waiting in lines, the lasting value of that memory fades quickly. Very little authentic cultural engagement happens on the sidewalk. Returning to our chart, this places urban icons directly in the top left: high friction, low impact. These locations operate as tourist traps because they extract maximum resources from you while yielding the lowest genuine cultural return. Let's shift the evaluation to Category 2, which holds undeniable historical and natural value: the managed megaparks. These places possess world-class geology, but a mid-century surge in automotive tourism permanently altered their accessibility. Prioritizing pavement over preservation changed how we interact with them. Today, seeing these parks require intense logistical input. You need inflexible itineraries, booking windows that open a year in advance, and pre-dawn alarm clocks just to secure a parking spot at the trailhead. The experiential trade-off is steep. You get access to breathtaking views, but you are forced to share those views shoulder to shoulder with thousands of strangers trying to get the exact same angle. On the matrix, megaparks land high and to the right. The friction is intense, but the experiential impact is high. They deliver on their hyped outcomes, but they demand an absolute sacrifice of your schedule flexibility and your patience in return. If you are unwilling to pay the megapark friction tax, there is a strategic alternative: the Tier 2 locations. To execute this, you need two inputs. You have to be willing to drive further away from major travel hubs, and you have to abandon the desire for a famous brand name geotag on your photos. This shift provides dramatically lower localized costs, spontaneous booking availability, and vast stretches of absolute isolation. The trade-off here is a lack of safety nets. Less developed infrastructure means you must be highly self-sufficient regarding food, water, and emergency supplies. But in exchange, you experience a pristine ecosystem entirely on your own terms, free from the managed environments and crowds we saw earlier. This drops Tier 2 alternatives firmly into the bottom right of our matrix: low friction, high impact. Stepping just 1 degree away from the famous centralized landmarks yields the highest objective return on your travel investment. The final decision relies entirely on identifying which resource you are most willing to burn: your time, your money, or your patience. This scorecard outlines 3 primary traveler profiles to guide your strategy: the checklister, the optimizer, and the seeker. If your budget is high but your time is restricted, you are a checklister. Your strategy is to pay the premium from megaparks and buy VIP access wherever possible to guarantee efficiency. If your budget is tight, you are an optimizer. You should avoid peak season icons and pivot to shoulder season travel or Tier 2 parks to stretch your dollars. And if you have plenty of time but zero tolerance for crowds, you are a seeker. You must abandon the famous spots entirely and head deep into the wilderness to find what you're looking for. A disastrous vacation occurs when you cross these wires, when your personal profile is misaligned with the inputs a specific destination demands. Any location that demands more time, money, or patience than you can reasonably afford qualifies as a tourist trap. The emotional value you attach to seeing an American landmark is subjective, but the financial and logistical costs required to get there are hard, measurable data points. You have permission to ignore the societal pressure to hit the famous spots. If the ROI doesn't match your constraints, confidently cut those places off your itinerary. The most successful American road trip is one where the cost of the journey leaves you with enough space to actually enjoy the view.